Today we are talking about an artist who did something pretty incredible. He didn't just paint pictures, he figured out how to paint light itself. This is the story of Claude Monet, a total rebel who, with just a paintbrush, pretty much taught the entire world to see things in a completely new way.
But the whole story really hinges on this one question. How did a single painting, one that critics at the time totally slammed for being blurry and looking unfinished, how did that one canvas end up giving a name to a whole art movement and change the course of art forever? Okay, let's get into it. So to really get what made his work so revolutionary, you've got to understand the man himself, the rebel. See, Monet was born into a world that had super strict rules about what art was supposed to look like. And well, he just wasn't interested in playing by those rules. He was actually born in Paris back in 1840, but his family moved to the port town of Le Havre. From a really young age, he just loved being outside. So by 1859, he was back in Paris, the center of the art universe. And that's where he met other young artists like Renoir and Sisley, who were all feeling the same way he was, kind of fed up with how things were done. And here's where the first big break from tradition happens. Instead of being cooped up in some stuffy studio painting scenes from history or mythology, Monet and his buddies did something that was, for the time, totally radical. They literally took their easels and went outside. They wanted to paint real life in real nature as it was happening right in front of them. Now you can probably guess, right? This whole new way of painting? Well, it put them on a collision course with the official art establishment. And that big clash finally came to a head in 1874 at an exhibition that would go down in history. You see, Monet and his friends kept getting rejected by the big, prestigious Paris Salon, which was pretty much the only way for an artist to make a name for themselves. So they basically said, fine, if you won't let us in, we'll do it ourselves. They decided to challenge the establishment head-on by putting on their own show. I get this. The way they got their name, it was actually meant as an insult. A critic saw Monet's painting, Impression Sunrise, which was all hazy and atmospheric, and he used the title to make fun of them. He sarcastically called them all impressionists, basically saying their work was just a lazy, unfinished sketch, a mere impression. And man, that insult must have really stung, because from a business perspective, the exhibition was a complete and utter disaster. A lot of people came to gawk at this weird new art, but the group sold exactly 0 paintings. It was a massive public failure. So what was the big deal? Why was this art so shocking? What was Monet doing that made people so upset? To get that, we need to look at the rules of his artistic revolution. At its very heart, Impressionism was about one thing: capturing a single, fleeting moment. Monet wasn't trying to paint a perfect, timeless picture of a tree. He was trying to paint how that tree looked in the specific light of that one specific second. And this is where you really see the clash. Classical art was all about perfect details, colors that were blended smoothly, and flawless, idealized scenes. Monet, he just threw that whole rulebook out the window. His work didn't have that traditional detail. He dabbed bold, unmixed colors right onto the canvas, and he painted everyday, blink-and-you'll-miss-it moments. To the art world, it just looked messy, unfinished. So his method was the key. Monet was obsessed, and I mean obsessed, with light and shadow and how they could transform a scene from one minute to the next. He used these powerful, unmixed colors and applied them in these short, distinct brushstrokes to capture that immediate feeling, that visual sensation, completely ditching the old, smooth, detailed techniques. But here's the thing about rebels. Sometimes they win. Despite the rough start, all the debt, and the constant rejection, the world eventually started to see what Monet was seeing. And this next chapter of his life, it's all about triumph and finding peace. So yeah, by the 1880s and 90s, things had totally turned around. Art collectors, especially from America, started to get it. They began to appreciate his work. The rebel who couldn't sell a single painting at his first show was finally becoming a success. He was finally making enough money to live comfortably. And that financial security allowed him to do something incredible. He bought a house in a little place called Giverny and just poured all his time and energy into creating his own personal, perfect garden. It became his living masterpiece, a subject he could paint over and over. He became completely fascinated with the pond he built, and that fascination led directly to his most famous, most beloved works ever, the Water Lilies series. When we look back, Monet's story is so much bigger than just pretty paintings of flowers. It's really about a fundamental shift in how we think about art. His legacy is nothing short of a whole new way of seeing the world. He passed away in 1926 at 86 years old. And that painter, whose work was once called unfinished, had absolutely finished his masterpiece. He had given art a new language, one that celebrated personal feeling and the beauty of the present moment over some old stuffy idea of perfection.
And that really leaves us with the final thought. Monet's greatest gift was showing us how a simple shift in light can turn something ordinary into something absolutely magical. He challenges us to just pay attention. So the next time you're outside, what do you notice when you really truly stop to look?